Okay, Mehdi Hasan. There's a lot of fears. There are many fears about this man, President Ahmadinejad, who has said, whether he actually said that, whether it's correctly translated, wipe off the mat, some think he was referring to the regime rather than the entity, the country. But he has said some appalling things in his time.
He has indeed. He has indeed. But let's not make this a debate about Ahmadinejad, because let's be honest, Nikki, there were concerns about Iran's nuclear program when Mohammad Khatami, his more moderate predecessor, was president of Iran. There have been concerns about Iran's nuclear program for several years now. This is not about individuals or leaders. This is about the future of stability and peace in the Middle East. And in the Middle East, the best option is to have a Middle East free from nuclear weapons. Now, let me just be very clear to your listeners. Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. The point of the IAEA inspections is to make sure that they don't have nuclear weapons in the future. The Iranians claim that they're not building nuclear weapons. That's incidentally the view of the American government. That's the view in private of the Israeli government. So let's just be very clear before we... Sorry?
No, that's rubbish. The Iranians said, in fact, quite recently, Ahmadinejad was showcasing.
What's rubbish? The chairman of...
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, Thomas, Mehdi, come back.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the United States, Martin Dempsey, gave an interview to CNN over the weekend, which I watched and which I heard him say that Iran has not even taken a decision yet to build nuclear weapons, let alone have a nuclear weapons program. And so, hello, can I...
Wait, no, Thomas, let Mehdi answer.
The American government, the official view of the American intelligence community, which so exaggerated the Iraqi weapons of mass destruction, that even now, 10 years on, you hope they've learned a lesson, are saying they do not believe the Iranians are building nuclear weapons. Okay. It's worrying that we have all this rhetoric about attacking Iran and stopping Iran and bombing Iran. You know, we are, 9 years on from the Iraq War. Have we learned any lessons from that?
Well, we should maybe... Wait a minute, Mehdi, maybe we should worry about some of the rhetoric coming from President Ahmadinejad about the Holocaust and not being true, about the Zionist crooks.
Of course, but that's not what this debate is. That's not what the
Thomas.
That's not what the debate about the nuclear program is, Nikki.
Yeah.
Nikki, the debate about the nuclear program is Iran a nuclear threat to its neighbours? I've seen no evidence that it is. The only country threatening military action right now in the Middle East is Israel, openly, in its parliament.
All right, back in a second. Kadir, I'm going to come to Douglas Murray in a second. Kadir, I was berating Thomas for interrupting, but it was you. Kadir,
Nikki, you were saying about rhetoric. What about nuclear English? He referred to Palestinians as people don't even exist.
Can you find it in your balanced rationale to not only condemn that, but to condemn President Ahmadinejad for what he said about the Holocaust and 9/11? Do you condemn him at all for that?
But that does not mean that he is basically going to... Don't forget, his country's being attacked from every angle at the moment, through media, through American spy planes.
All right, Douglas Murray. We've heard about these attacks by Mossad. We've also heard about attacks on Israeli diplomats. We've heard about the accusations of fostering international terrorism by Iran. Douglas Murray, how dangerous would Iran be with a nuclear weapon? How dangerous is Iran now?
It would be extremely dangerous with a nuclear weapon, which is why everybody with any sense would wish to ensure that it never gets such a weapon. Since 1979, when the Islamic Revolution happened in Iran, Iran has been an intransigent outsider power which has funded terrorism, which has supported terrorism, and has destabilized the region. Iran, we must remember, is the primary backer of the terrorist group of Hezbollah, which has so destabilized the Lebanon and Syria. It is the primary backer of Hamas, which has done so much to destabilize its efforts to create a genuine and lasting peace deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians. That's what it's done without a nuclear weapon. So there's no doubt that if it did have such a device, or a number of such devices, it would feel that its reach had at least increased. On the point that one of your callers made about this claim that Ahmadinejad had said that Israel should be wiped from the map, it is worth considering, if I may say so.
Yeah.
Maybe it is right. This hasn't started with Ahmadinejad. Numerous Iranian leaders, including the supreme leader Khamenei, have said things very similar to this. In some cases worse than this. Most people translate Ahmadinejad's notorious statement as desiring Israel to be erased from the page of time the point is that he says things like that every day. He denies the last Holocaust and makes statements about his desire to have another one. There is no reason for people to give Iran the benefit of the doubt on this. And if I can just quickly say that it isn't, I think, the view in private or particularly in public. We're hearing a lot of rhetoric, including contradictory rhetoric, coming out at the moment from Washington and elsewhere. I don't think that Washington intelligence chiefs and military chiefs give their most honest appraisals in the military. I think people say things for particular political aims. And at the moment, the international community is hoping it can prevent Iran from, as it were, breaking out from IAEA authority and going straight for a bomb. Now, it's also not true to say that that there is no evidence that they're trying to weaponize. I'm afraid that they are. That just last month, when the IAEA visited Iran, they named a number of sites, including one where the IAEA believed that they suspected was a testing ground for nuclear weapons components. And the night before they hoped to visit that site, Iranian officials changed the program, made sure they couldn't. That's why the IAEA.
Well, but I just wonder about Mehdi Hassan's point about and Kadir's as well. Once bitten, twice shy after Iraq. Mehdi Hassan, you come back here.
Yeah, let me just come back on that. Look, Douglas, I don't deny Douglas's point. Iran has been evasive. There's a history there. There's no doubt about that. That doesn't mean there's evidence of weapons. The IAEA is very clear that all they have is unanswered questions, which is what they had about Iraq. Specifically on Iran, Douglas's potted history of the region misses a few things out. You want to know why Iran is intransigent? Well, he missed out the Iran-Iraq war in the 80s, where 1 million Iranians died while we supported Saddam Hussein. You talk about backing Hezbollah, but that was backing Hezbollah in response to the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. And on the point about the American intelligence, it is the consensus view of the American intelligence community that Iran stopped any nuclear weapons-related development in 2003. That has not changed, according to every intelligence official who speaks on or off the record. So let's not hype this threat as Mohammed El-Baradei once said.
Douglas.
I don't think that is the case at all. Maybe we speak to different people, maybe. I suspect we do. But there are, among other things, 6 UN Security Council resolutions which have demanded that Iran suspend its uranium enrichment, and it hasn't. The level at which Iran is trying to enrich uranium to is not needed for a domestic civilian nuclear power capability.
But nor is it used for weapons. It's 90% for weapons. They're at 20%, as you well know, Douglas.
Yes, but they do not appear to be enriching uranium to the level which you would be able to happily have a perfectly adequate civilian enrichment process for.
Can I ask you a question?
So what is happening here? Is that a lot of different views are being set out, a lot of different facts are being set out, a lot of different claims are being set out. I suspect, and I would suggest, that people simply watch what the IAEA, and when it's in the country as it is again at the moment, what it comes back with, what it finds, how credible the Iranian government's cooperation with it is. I think at the moment
Yeah, go on, Mehdi. Ask your question.
I've got to run, but I'm going to ask one question before I go. I'm in favour of Iran opening up all its nuclear facilities to inspectors. I'm also in favour of Israel opening up all its nuclear facilities. I want both countries to allow inspectors. Do you?
No, I don't think that is a fair comparison. No, I think there's not a fair comparison to make, and I'll tell the reason why.
Because one country has nuclear weapons, but the other isn't.
No, which I'll explain why, which is that it's a very obvious fact to any impartial observer that Israel's undeclared situation, as I say, Israel doesn't declare whether it has nuclear power or not, that Israel has, for some decades now, successfully managed to not be invaded by its neighbors, as it was many times in the decades before it was suspected to be a nuclear power. And that Israel's current situation means that there is no likelihood that any of its neighbors is going to attack Israel. In other words, it has worked successfully in creating a situation of détente. Now, that would not be the case if Iran became a nuclear power.
Okay, thank you.
If Iran became a nuclear power, they have said they would use it. Israel uses its weaponry.
There's no lie on the radio. They've never said they're going to use nuclear weapons.
Even the moderate opponent of Ahmadinejad, Mr. Rafsanjani, has publicly, at the Al-Quds Day parade in 2001,
has publicly fantasized about what the situation would be if he had one bomb, if Iran had one bomb, and Israel had all of its bombs. You know, this is not even an Ahmadinejad question. This is a regime question in Iran.
All right, listen, Mehdi, before you... Sorry, Douglas, Mehdi, but before I'm going to go to our travel update in a minute. Douglas staying with us for a bit, but before you run, literally, a quick response to that.
Oh, well, my response to that is Douglas set out a very, very eloquent and articulate argument in favour of Iran getting nuclear weapons. He said a country in the Middle East like Israel gets weapons to defend itself. Well, that's the thinking of a lot of Iranian hardliners. The only way to stop that is to have a negotiated dialogue in the region where everyone is given guarantees that no one's going to attack each other. The quickest way of getting Iran to build a nuclear weapon is to attack Iran. Then they really will pull out the NPT and build weapons, and that will be a nightmare scenario.
Have a nice run.
You too.